in that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility.
In a dramatic courtroom showdown that had the world watching, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs sat just feet away from the federal prosecutor who was methodically dismantling his defense. As Assistant U.S. Attorney Christy Slavic delivered her closing argument in Diddy's RICO conspiracy trial, all eyes were on the hip-hop titan as he darted his gaze between the prosecutor and the jury, his expression unreadable, but his mind clearly racing. The tension inside the Southern District of New York courtroom was palpable. Dozens of Diddy's closest family members and friends filled the gallery, offering silent support. His mother, Janice Combs, sister Keisha Combs, sons Justin and Quincy, and even his daughters, including Sarah Chapman and the twins Delilah and Jesse, were all present. Notably absent were Christian Combs and his youngest daughter, Love. But it wasn't just the Combs clan making headlines. The prosecution side featured high-profile figures like acting U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton and attorney Doug Wigdor, known for representing victims in high-profile cases. Inside this pressure cooker of legal drama, Elizabeth Milner, our trusted court reporter, painted a vivid picture of what unfolded. According to Milner, Diddy remained composed throughout the proceedings, occasionally flashing smiles at his loved ones, but otherwise maintaining a stoic presence. He scribbled notes and passed them to his lead attorney, Mark Adona, suggesting he was still very much engaged in the strategy, even if not outwardly reacting to the damning narrative being laid out by the government. Slavic's closing argument was anything but flashy. She spoke in a monotone, methodical tone, using a PowerPoint presentation to walk jurors through the timeline of alleged criminal activity tied to Combs. Text messages, witness testimony, and digital footprints were meticulously pieced together to show a pattern of behavior spanning years, one that prosecutors argued amounted to an organized criminal enterprise under the RICO statute. But while Slavic's approach was clinical, the content was explosive. She zeroed in on the testimonies of two key alleged victims, Cassie and Jane Doe. Though Jane's account raised questions about consent, the prosecution used it to reinforce Cassie's claims of coercion, manipulation, and physical abuse. The message was clear. This wasn't about one bad incident. It was about a systematic abuse of power. For decades, Diddy has been a towering figure in music, fashion, and pop culture. His rise from a record executive to a global brand has been nothing short of meteoric. Yet now at 54, he faced the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars over allegations that his success was built on a foundation of exploitation, intimidation, and violence. At the heart of the case is the infamous 2016 video showing Diddy assaulting Cassie in a hotel hallway. That footage, which went viral nearly a decade ago, resurfaced during the trial with brutal clarity. And in response to the backlash, Diddy released an apology video days later where he called his actions inexcusable, admitted to seeking therapy, and vowed to be a better man. But in the context of this trial, that apology rang hollow. Legal analysts noted that while the video showed remorse for that specific incident, it did little to address the broader pattern of alleged misconduct detailed throughout the trial. If anything, it served as a reminder of how deeply troubling the evidence against him truly was. One of the most talked about absences from the courtroom was that of Diddy's longtime chief of staff, known only as KK. Her name came up repeatedly throughout the trial, yet she never took the stand. Prosecutors and defense attorneys alike referenced her involvement through text messages, emails, and witness accounts, painting her as a central figure in Diddy's inner circle. Legal experts speculated that her absence was no accident. Had she testified, she could have either corroborated the prosecution's claims or offered Diddy a scapegoat. Instead, her silence became a deafening presence in the courtroom. Some believe that if Diddy is convicted, KK may soon find herself facing charges of her own. She knew everything, said Candace Kelly, legal analyst and former public defender. If there was ever someone who could flip the script, it would be KK. But the fact that she didn't testify speaks volumes. Even if Diddy avoids a criminal conviction, the battle is far from over. More than 70 civil lawsuits have already been filed against him, ranging from sexual assault to human trafficking. Experts predict these cases will drag on for years, regardless of the outcome in the criminal trial. David Ring, a seasoned civil rights attorney, explained that Diddy's legal team is likely preparing a multi-pronged defense strategy. He's going to fight tooth and nail, Ring said. Settling some cases might be inevitable, but don't expect him to roll over. He's got too much at stake. And with his fortune estimated at over $850 million, Diddy has the financial resources to wage a lengthy legal war. But money alone may not be enough to shield him from the reputational damage already done. Brands have begun distancing themselves, and cultural allies once eager to defend him have gone silent. There was speculation that Diddy might cut a plea deal to reduce his sentence, but panelists agreed that such a move was unlikely. This is a man who's always paid his way out of trouble, said Aaliyah Roberts, legal commentator. He doesn't see himself as beholden to anyone, not the law, not the system. Rushing to trial was his way of saying, I'm not afraid. That bravado, however, may have backfired. By opting for a swift trial rather than negotiating a plea, Diddy gave up the chance to potentially secure a lighter sentence in exchange for cooperation. Now he must rely entirely on his defense team to convince the jury that the government hasn't met its burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. As the prosecution rested its case, all eyes turned to Mark Agnone and the defense team. They had less than 24 hours to craft a compelling counter-narrative, one that could dismantle the government's mountain of evidence and restore doubt in the minds of jurors. Legal observers predicted that Agnone would focus on attacking inconsistencies in witness testimony, particularly around issues of consent and credibility. They're going to hammer home the idea that these women weren't victims, they were willing participants, said David Ring. It's a risky play, but it might be their only shot. Indeed, Jane Doe's testimony had opened the door to that argument. While she described a relationship with Diddy that involved sex work, she also insisted it was consensual. The defense could use that to argue that any sexual encounters were transactional, not coercive. But critics warned that this line of defense could backfire. You can't have it both ways, said Candace Kelly. Either they were consenting adults, or they were victims of a sex trafficker. Trying to straddle the line is dangerous territory. If convicted, Diddy faces a minimum of 20 years in prison and potentially life behind bars. The RICO statute allows for severe penalties when a pattern of criminal activity is proven, and with the prosecution presenting a cohesive timeline linking multiple incidents across years, the risk of conviction is real. Yet even if he walks free, the fallout from this trial will linger. His legacy is already fractured, and the legal battles ahead are poised to consume the next chapter of his life. Whether behind bars or in a courtroom, Diddy's empire is under siege. As the judge prepared to deliver final instructions to the jury, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. For Diddy, this was more than a trial, it was a reckoning. For the victims, it was a long-awaited moment of truth. And for the world, it was a stark reminder that no one, not even a music legend, is above the law. Tomorrow, the defense would have its say. But today, the government made its final devastating case, one that left little room for doubt.